Hello, everyone. This is Alex Tremble, and today is a good day. See, today I have with me another phenomenal guest, another phenomenal, awesome friend of mine, Mr. Cordell Carter, Esquire. Ooh, doesn't that sound smart? See, Cordell is the executive director of the Aspen Institute Socrates Program, a global education forum for leaders learning from leaders. And he's the founder of the Festival of Diaspora, an annual Latin American-based convening of leaders across the Americas and the Western Balkans. Cordell serves on a number of boards and advisory committees, and in June of 2021, President Joe Biden, oh man, appointed him to be the commissioner to the President's Commission on White House Fellowships. This man is awesome, and there is nothing else I can say, but how you doing today, kind sir?
Doing well. Greetings from Ensemble, Turkey.
I was saying, you know how cool that sounds to say greetings from Turkey?
Yeah, it's quite a place. If you haven't been, I put it on your list.
Well, look, I want to kick us off by asking the question that I know everyone is waiting to hear. How do we become an Esquire? Like, do you gotta does the queen like knight you or something like that?
No, it's just it's an old way of saying that I have a law degree. And once I stopped practicing, I guess 18 months ago, I was getting so busy with some of my entrepreneurial pursuits, I had to let something go. And so I
Mhm.
let something go, which was my law license, but I added something, and that is the Esquire. And so I'm Cordell Carter Esquire.
Hey, it's official. It's official.
Yes, I heard still paying that Esquire off. Yeah.
well, like so many of us. Um, so the first question I've been really looking forward to asking you about is you know, many people know the Executive Appeal as this podcast where we share ideas with leaders such as yourself across the world to help individuals grow and learn and ultimately move in those senior level positions. But it's not just that. The Executive Appeal is actually a program I run for organizations. So I go in and I create spaces where leaders have a safe place to ask difficult questions, have a difficult conversation and learn and grow together. And this is what I enjoy doing. Now, the Socrates program, the Aspen Institute. My understanding is that the Aspen Institute in your program does something very, very, very similar, to say the least. Can you share a little more about what you do over there?
Sure. So the Socrates program was the first public program that the Aspen Institute created 26 and a half years ago. It was a direct response to criticism, at least in the mid 90s, that the Aspen Institute was too insular and too old and too Midwestern because, the founders were Chicago-based German American entrepreneurs. They created this place for men to come together and find their common humanity, such that we wouldn't have a World War III. In the late 40s, that was a major concern.
Mhm.
Leaders, and for the first 45 plus years of the institute, things are going along a little swimmingly,
Yeah.
but that criticism was there. There were hardly any women. There were hardly any people of color. And this thing called the internet was happening in the mid 90s. And our founders, co-founders, Gary and Laura Lauder, were then, a newly married couple, not quite 30 years old. And they said, wow, we were the youngest people here by at least 3 decades. And Laura's the only, like this organization is not going to stand the test of time
Yeah.
because what the internet is happening, it's going to change the world. And so they were given license to create a forum for younger leaders to come together. So rather than these, 3-week sojourns with the great books and togas in the woods that had Aspen had been known for, we're doing weekend events, 3-day weekends, starting over President's Day weekend in 1996. And here we are today, 27 years later, with 10,000 alums all over the world. And what we do is use like values and ethics based text-based Socratic dialogue on contemporary leadership topics. And so whether the issue is cybersecurity or privacy surveillance or, I don't know, international relations, foreign policy. Instead of a philosopher in the room talking about Plato and Locke, we talk about what's actually happening today, right now, something that you can actually use when you leave that building. And so we gather brilliant, curious, diverse leaders together in a beautiful places. They have their intellectual workout. They really go at it in that room for 4 hours a day. And then we stop and then
Mhm.
we go out and enjoy that town, that city, that
Yeah.
region together and have these common experiences. And so I first attended in 2011 and I was looking for an intellectual community. I found my tribe in Socrates that winter of 2011, and I've never left.
Well, look, selfishly, as someone who was recently accepted into that fellowship program, and I will be going out there in July, I am very, very happy that we're not walking around in togas.
Yes,
I would prefer not to. So thank
it
you
was
for
really
that.
just FYI,
You said what?
it was really cool in the 60s. You're reading Antigone. I should give some context to that. They were actually engaging in a play, and that play is Antigone, the famous Greek tragedy,
Hmm.
leadership through that. In fact, without the togas, every Aspen employee has to engage in Antigone at least once. It's our
Oh wow.
hazing. So when we do staff seminars, we engage in Antigone. In fact, this October, and since I'm in Turkey, I will say inshallah, God willing, we will be bringing Socrates to Greece in October,
Wow.
where every participant will go to the Delphi Amphitheater with Gina Belafonte of that Belafonte name, and we'll be engaged in Antigone, in a place where Antigone was actually created millennia ago. We're very excited.
Man, that is really really cool. And again, he keeps dropping this turkey stuff, making me a little. I mean, people think I'm cool. You're outside. You're right in DC area. Well, yeah, I'm not in Turkey. So my question I'd love to kind of dive into with you is, creating these spaces, right? There are. We live in a time where it's very easy to be to getting yourself in trouble when you're asking a question. Sometimes, yeah, if you're a DICK and you're being mean, then you should have to deal with consequences. But if you're a leader trying to understand something, man, like not being able to fall, not being able to fail, not being able to get things wrong can really hamper your career and ultimately impact your personal life and your family. So again, I work with these organizations to create these spaces, but I'd love to see, how do you create those spaces where people feel safe enough to have those dialogues?
Yeah, I'll give you two answers. One is the Aspen answer. There's a tried and true method of what we call curating the room. And so the text and location is as important as the people in the room.
Mm.
And so when we're looking at applicants like yourself, we're like, what does Alex bring? Does he have any a record, a public record of being a real jerk? Is this a person that's open to dialogue, especially with someone who disagrees with them? That's what we're seeking to attract, and that's typically what we find. Now, there have been times when we've had to, tap someone on the shoulder and say, "Hey, listen, this may not be the best for you. Here's a refund. We'll see you later." Because it's just not, I'm thinking of a particular instance a few years ago. There's an older gentleman who did not like young women disagreeing with him in public, and I'm like, "Oh man, we're going to have some problems, my friend."
Mhm.
Uh, 51% of Socrates are women, and they have a lot to say. And I will make sure they have a right to say it. So you have to go. We also shroud our convenings with Chatham House rule, which means, basically whatever's said there, you don't repeat and you don't attribute to whoever said it. So, like, say you said the sky is green and you all are confused. I would say someone in my session said the sky is green and that we're all confused. I can't say Alex said that, right? That's Chatham House rule. The other answer, I had a great, I should say, the exemplary example of it. What was that, yesterday? Yeah, no, day before yesterday. I lecture, in addition to curating seminars in Aspen, I also lecture for some executive institute, one being the Federal Executive Institute. My topic was Becoming an Inclusive Republic. It's the name of a forthcoming book that I'm trying to finish now. And there's a gentleman who felt safe enough, and I'm so proud, to say, I don't know how to say what I'm about to say, but I feel safe to say it. This is exact words. He says, how do we talk about diversity without making people feel ashamed to be white?
Mm,
And it almost brought tears to my eyes. I've been waiting for someone to ask that question out loud for 3 years. I've been doing this lecture, and it created a whole new stream of empathy and dialogue that was not a part of my script. We actually ran over time, and thank goodness, because I was lecturing from Azerbaijan that day. I was
mm,
8 hours, and his openness gave me such a jolt of energy that I'm the one that made us go over, because I had a whole lot to say about making safe places for everyone, and I was so proud of him for having the courage and feeling open enough to say what he really thought, because like you said, so often that's not what happens,
mhm,
and we need more dialogue, not less, and we can't ask people to be open and then punish them for saying what they think. I mean, there's multiple ways of having eggshell skin, and one is your reaction. Okay, and so it engendered a great dialogue that took us in a completely different place. But I know that the training from Aspen and creating these amazing spaces for people to be open certainly is influencing the way that I lecture.
I love everything about what you just said, and if I can just pin on one of the points you made, which is you have to set expectations.
Mhm.
If you allow behavior that is not in alignment with the values and the culture you're creating for that space to persist, then you can't have that space. No one will trust that they can have their voices in those spaces. And so I love that you're willing to say, "Hey, look, I know you paid for this, but you didn't pay that much. Let's you're gonna need to step away, and here's your
Yeah.
money back."
And that is a very important point, because our job is to create amazing experiences for leaders. Okay, and so I am not typically a detail oriented person. This role has made me such. I mean, ask my spouse. She's like, you don't know where your keys are 3 minutes after coming in the house. Yet for a seminar, you can do minute by minute for 4 days straight. Yes, I can, because I know the stakes of every minute. People are paying a premium to have these experiences. I want to make sure that's a great experience. Doesn't mean people agree with you. It does mean you have an opportunity to express yourself. And I can't have people in that space that are violating our norms. And so I'm thankful that we have license to give people their money back. Some organizations don't. They have to just deal with it.
Mhm.
Um, say, no, 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 no. Our method is so important that you have to go. Okay. And so that is carried over into other parts of my life as well.
You you know, you know, a question I want to throw to you. You kind of hinted at it already. So you have your day job. You are writing in the process of writing a book, which is a Herculean task, right?
Yes.
It's a lot of effort. You have your side businesses. You just ran your extremely successful festival this past year. It was, I think it was this year, right? It was
Yeah.
2022.
Last year, but it was just February. Yeah.
Yeah, right. So I want to ask you a few questions, but the first question is that many people go to conferences. Many people go to conferences. Fewer people speak at conferences, but even fewer people take on creating a conference. What was that like? Were you ever afraid that it wasn't going to go off the way you planned?
Uh, Yes. I tell you what, it was probably the most fraught experience that I am glad that I had. There were moments, I would say 6 weeks out, where I was like, maybe we should cancel. But like, no, we're not going to cancel. We're going to push through. And I don't know if it's called the laws of attraction, but everything that I needed from participants to sponsors came through on time. And then you get there, right? And again, I'm pedantic about the details of these convenings. And on that opening ceremony, I'm standing in front of the crowd. I had expected 75 people. We had over 150. The dance troupe is behind me, ready to do their thing. I'm supposed to be giving an opening statement, and I look to my left, and I see my parents all misty-eyed. I look directly across the hall, right down the middle. I see my daughter smiling from the doorway. I look to my right, and I literally see my childhood youth pastor and my best friend from Seattle that flown in to support me. And I got choked up, and I couldn't give the statement that I wanted. I shortened it up and brought the band on,
Yeah.
and it went 4 magical days. And then, what really got me is the results. You know, you had 3 mergers that happened. So I'm sitting there organizing a conference, going through panels, and people are doing business, right? They're hearing someone on the panel. Hey, can I talk to you? Let's get you on the phone. Boom. Purchase the company. 3 others, no, 4 others did interviews on the spot with people. They expressed a need. It's like, you know what? I like what you do, and I'll leave my role to join your organization. Collaborations, things have come out of it. I mean, I wish I were better at recording the impact. I've been so busy focused on next year's events, but I wish I were better at recording impact, because that is the proof in your pudding. Is there a transformative experience happening, or are you just getting there talking? And I'm like, I'm there for the transformation. That's why you set these things up. That's why you put them in beautiful places, because you're getting the right people in the room that are ready to connect, to celebrate, and to act. That's the whole point. And man, but I tell you, I'm having some PTSD, and I'm thinking about it, like the anxiety that I had, 6 weeks out, 2 months out. Boy, it was, oh boy. I put it this way, I had so many pina coladas the day after it ended. I can't, lost count after 4.
you know, what's it called? But see, I love to teach and speak on putting ourselves where we can experience exceptional opportunities, exceptional circumstances, because just literally by being in those spaces and having to sink or swim, you grow, you learn, you're exposed to new people, opportunities, so on and so forth. It's just a magnificent feeling. But in order to overcome that, in order to get to that point, you have to deal with that fear.
Mhm.
Why didn't you stop? You felt the fear. You felt you wanted to stop. You weren't sure. Why did you stop? Because I know there's so many people right now who are listening right now saying, but how do you get over that fear?
Yeah, I've learned in life, in my 45 years of living, you got to walk towards danger. And if you always play it safe, that's all you ever get, playing it safe, keeping your cards close to your chest. And if you want a different result, you got to do something different. And COVID was my big aha moment. My father was in ICU for almost a month. I thought I was going to lose probably the most important man in my life, my hero, my pops. And, got to the point where I was really planning his Zoom funeral, because this is 2020. And once he overcame, intubation, and 8 of his colleagues dying in the ICU rooms next to him, and coming out of that, and me finally being able to visit him, and he's standing up. He was like, "I just want you to know that I'm on my 2 feet." I was like, "Yep." And literally a light bulb switch, and that portal of creativity and of risk taking that I had closed for playing it safe, I just started saying yes to everything. Yes, yes, yes. And literally it feels like my life has tripled in output. I'm not saying it doesn't come without cost, because there is only a limited amount of time, but I feel such a sense of urgency to get some things done now while there's a window of opportunity to do it. I'm fortunate enough to be a part of a platform that encourages innovation in our respective spaces, as long as it doesn't conflict with what we're doing at Aspen. And my work doesn't. I'm focused on belonging. That's not what we do at Aspen. So it's wide open space, and there's a lot of people that are looking for the platforms and the content that I'm building. And so I'm here in Turkey. I was in Azerbaijan before this 2 days ago. Focus on belonging. So the world needed me to get my act together, and to get out of safe zone and get into that creation zone. And I think that's what everyone needs. Hopefully it doesn't take something traumatic to get you there. And hopefully it doesn't take 45 years either. It took that for me. We do run our, so, it is what it is. And I'm thankful for it all. But I don't know if you and I would be having the conversation that we're having now, but for enduring that near tragic experience with my father during 2020.
It's interesting. Again, you said so much, and there's so much I could follow up with, but I'll just say initially, when I look back, and I encourage people in my courses and audience to do the same thing. When I look back at my life, there's 2 points that I loved to key in on. The first is I look at all the horrible times that I've lived through. I look at all the bad things that have happened, all the times I wasn't sure if I was going to make it. I look through all that, and the first thing I say is, I'm here. This is proof. This is not a feeling. This is not being positive. This is not this is empirical data. I have overcome all these things that I wasn't sure I was going to be able to overcome. So I can do this. And I'm strong. So that's the first thing, is understanding that. And then second is, if you look at where you are now, I'm not even going to say generally speaking, it is because you were able to overcome something that was bad in your life in the past. And now you are here now. Like, I love what you're talking about right now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm right there with you. I was in Berlin a couple weeks ago on a podcast. They were getting me to really open up about some horrible experience that I had professionally. I remember being professionally humiliated 7 years ago at an organization I really loved. You know the name of it, big foundation, and just ran to the wrong manager. It is what it is. Um, but it was so traumatic to me personally, and I was so personally embarrassed. But it was almost like my body went to auto drive, and I just smiled through it. I worked right through it and kept it moving, as if I was chasing the ghost, chasing a reaction I was supposed to have. I was chasing this depression that was supposed to overcome me, but it never did, because I just kept working. I kept showing up, kept showing up. And now today, that particular organization is a huge client of mine, right? I've never said a negative word about the people involved or the organization. I just moved on. Never considered for a fact, that like uh, my humiliation was public. It turns out it wasn't. In my mind, it was, but and probably that was the wrong reaction to have. But you keep fighting through it, and you get better every single innovation, every cycle. You just keep going, you keep going, you keep going, because at the end of the day, we are the aggregation of our experiences, good, bad, happy, or sad, and we are better for going through the bad parts. I remember every loss, but I don't remember the wins, because the wins are so multiple. I just don't remember. Okay. I don't focus on them, but the
Mhm.
loss drive me. Those are things that drive me to be better and to be better and to be better. Because um, I want to have impact. I want to be better than I was yesterday, and I want to transform the lives of others as well. And if I dwell on the things that get me down or make me blue, um, I can't get there. And so we have to walk towards danger. We have to walk towards the uncomfortable if you want things to be different.
I was recently asked at a workshop I presented the other day. They said, "How do you keep yourself from reacting versus responding?"
Uh-huh.
Right? And I say that because you talked about right now, but I say I've experienced times in my life where I have 100% reacted, and I don't know, every time I regretted it, right? So I was like, that was not the right way to go. And so I had to teach myself how to monitor my own body. And so when I'm in a space and things are getting heated, I can feel my heart starting to speed up a little bit. I can feel my hands starting to tremble a little bit. I'm a little sweating. I'm like, you know what, Alex? This is not a good space for you. So
Uh-huh.
I'll now intentionally find a way to step back out of that, so I can make sure I calm myself, so I can respond versus react. How do you keep yourself from responding? Sorry, from reacting versus responding?
I've learned two words: zoom out. Zoom out. Okay, just like in your camera. Because when you zoom out and you look at the totality of the circumstance, there may have been something that you did to help create the situation. Okay, so you have to put your empathy hat on. And B, compare your life at 45 with the life of your grandfather at 45. In the United States of America, I'm having cotton candy at Disneyland every single day. So whatever I'm going through is first world nonsense. I'll survive. Tomorrow's a new day. Chill out, Cordell. Zoom out. Okay? Zoom out and get over it. And so that's I had to do this in the airport recently. I was supposed to go into this sounds so horrible. I was supposed to go in the VIP line. I went in the wrong VIP line, and the gentleman wasn't very kind as I'm showing him the letter from his government. And so I immediately snapped because I was tired after 16 hours of flying. I said, "What is your name? What is your name, sir?" And he was like, "Why do you want my name?" I said, "Because I'm going to tell the minister who's disrupting my visit because he invited me." And you could see the fright in his face, and I felt horrible. So I just stepped back. I said, "My apologies." And I just moved over. I just removed myself, went and sat down away from everyone else. And guess what? The VIP crew came and retrieved me. Okay. And they were asking, "Who was the gentleman?" I said, "Oh, I don't remember. I don't remember." Because why am I going to wreck his life because I felt like being a jerk after 16 hours flying? It's like I had a role to play in that one, right? It didn't have to get there. We didn't have to get animated with each other. But, I had a hair trigger temper after 16 hours of flying. That's on Cordell. Okay, so zoom out, chill out. Okay, so
well, well. So we've talked about all the fun stuff. We've talked about all the fun stuff. Now I gotta get to the stuff that I have to ask. Okay, gotta ask it. Okay, so look, the economy. There are signs that the economy is starting to slow down. We have inflation up. We have companies starting to have hiring freezes, laying people off. Um, I've been speaking to a lot of leaders recently about budget cuts. Now, you spoke earlier about being at the Executive Institute, and I remember being there one year with one of the professors, and he said, "Your job as a leader is to protect your budget. That's your job. If you don't protect your budget, you haven't done a good job because now you may lose your staff, you may hurt people." Like, so I would like to hear your response. Is your job as a leader to protect your budget, and then at what cost? I mean, someone's going to have the budget cut, right?
I don't think that's your job as a leader. But it depends on the context. Obviously, if this was the Feds where it's use or lose, absolutely, you want to protect your budget. In fact, I spent a week at the Army War College now, I guess 10 days ago, during the National Security Seminar, and we had some really robust discussions about the budget. And I'm asking the basic question: do you really think $750 billion a year is sustainable? Of course not. Okay, so what do you do? Say, and the issue is they ask Congress for 5 and they get 15. And if they don't spend the 15, they'll lose the 5. I mean, it creates a very perverse um, incentive to just spend, and protect your budget at all costs. We're coming to a point where that won't be possible. Okay, it won't be possible. You just can't keep printing money. In fact, I would say we're in the mess that we are in because of quantitative easing for what? For three years of the last administration, we're literally pumping $90 billion in cash into the economy every Friday. For 3 years straight, this was going on. I said, at some point, you have to pay that bill, and we're paying that bill now. I actually think the job of a leader is to create an upwardly mobile experience for their employees. Okay, my job is to express the vision, to explain what your role is in achieving that vision, but not to micromanage you, but to coach you where you need it, and to fall in love fast and fall out of love fast. If it's not working, I'll know, because I've given you enough rope for you to be creative enough to hang yourself. But move on. But if it does work, great. Even if you're only with me for 2 years, it'll be the best 2 years of your career. You'll tell everybody, "Oh my gosh, I wish I worked for Cordell. He was so much better than these other folks." And so I mean, I'm in the private sector, so the whole budget thing is not something that I fixate on. I'm mostly concerned about costs, but I believe investments are necessary. And what we're going to lose with tightening budgets is professional development funds, and it's going to create. Most leaders are going to have to really think about, how do I squeeze it out? Do we buy less pens? Do we take less trips? But I think it'd be a tragedy to stop investing in your leaders and your staff because the main line is being threatened. We're all going to take a haircut, but you still can have edges with a haircut. Okay, and so figure out a way. Use your creativity to figure out a way to create funds and flexibility, financially speaking, to continue to develop your employees, they will love you for it. They'll know that you made it a priority, their development, for however long you have them. Because one of the issues that we have in DC is the transitory nature of employees, right? People are coming and going every 18 months to 2 years, and it creates a disincentive for the leaders to invest in them. If I know you're only here for 18 months, 2 years, why would I promote you? Okay, like, why would I invest in you? You do your work and then leave. Like, I know you're going to. Well, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you create an amazing environment for them to thrive as professionals, maybe they'll make a different decision. And if they don't, you still did right by them. And they'll tell someone you did right by them. And you'll get great people as a result.
I completely 100% agree with you. And this is where I was going, talking to training managers, right?
Mhm.
And as you just said, one of the first spaces to have budgets cuts is training, right? Training, acquisition, so on and so forth, talent acquisition, so on and so forth. And the reality is, I mean, the research shows over and over and over, losing an employee cost the organization about 6 months, at minimum 6 months their salary to replace them, right?
Yeah.
Um, Yet it's so easy to say training, that's a nice to have. Everything else is required. I'm just trying to kind of get some ideas for how organizations can and leaders can make those cases, you know?
Yeah, I think showing a business case or retention is key to it. I call this my Luther Vandross strategy. Love the ones you're with. Because if you love them, meaning invest in them and show that, hey, I am taking cuts in other areas to preserve this thing for you because this is important for retaining my employees. Because we have a couple different things happening. You're having some contraction in the market, but you're also having talent sourcing issues. We have far more jobs open, especially in the tech sector, than you have people available. So upskilling, all this stuff is a rage. You're getting massive investments from private equity because this is what people need. Like, I need to upskill you from Salesforce to AWS or the other way. And why would I bring in someone new that doesn't understand my organization? I mean, I understand the tech, but not my organization. Obviously, upskilling is far more cost effective because you can do this for 2 hours of the 8 hours you're on site, right? Rather than like me bringing someone in at a much higher premium that and then I have to teach my organization. And so you want to keep the ones that you have because the recruiting and hiring and all the interviewing, this is just a drain. It's not just the salary costs. It's also the amount of money that you spend for the existing employees having to engage in these activities. They have to do the interviewing. They have to make sure it's a cultural fit. They have to do the tech screen. Why? To make sure you can actually do the job. I mean, you start looking at the number of people involved in bringing on new staff, I think you'll quickly decide, you know what? How can I keep the folks that I have? How can I go Luther Vandross on these folks and love the ones that I'm with? Because that's much better than the alternative. So I think the key to it is you got to make the case for uh, for just keeping the ones that you have and investing in them. It's just cheaper than trying to find new people. And moreover, there are no new people. Everyone, you can't keep poaching each other's employees. It's not like there's these pools of folks that are ready to go. No, we have to train them up, and we're doing that part. But it's not like they'll be ready tomorrow. That's going to take some time. So I think right now employers are in a really tough spot. They're in a really tough spot when it comes to talent.
I know we're going to start wrapping up. I'm pretty sure I heard the president of Turkey on your line a few minutes ago saying you got to jump off. What's um, I've heard you speak on the importance of organizations and importance of governments finding new ways to leverage uh, emerging technologies, blockchain, and so on and so forth. I'd love to hear you speak a little more on that. As leaders, what should we be doing to educate ourselves and find opportunities to leverage those new technologies?
I'm glad you asked that particular question because in leaders, especially my leadership philosophy, we are setting the table, the intellectual table for others to eat all the time. Like, we're literally just putting it out, putting more things out. I mean, good. That's what a good leader does. But what also good leaders do is they ignore the fact that they too have an appetite. And I have to spend more time investing in my own learning And I'm learning that now as I'm getting out and about more, I'm speaking more. There's just some deficits. There's some books I haven't had a chance to read. I probably have 30 books that I've been given or bought in the last 6 months that literally are a pile in my office at the house. I would love just 6 weeks to go through it and read it. I wish I could just go to an island and just read for a few weeks. I'll get all caught up. So you gotta in order to even get your teams to the point where they can leverage these, because you don't understand the use cases yet. You have to understand the technology to get the use cases. And so I think leaders need to invest in themselves, maybe 10% of their time, what I call blue sky. We do once every 2 weeks, 1 day of just blue sky. And the way we do blue sky is still programmed, meaning because we're in DC, we'll walk to the Hirshhorn or one of the sculpture gardens or one of the Smithsonian's, and literally just talk about what we're looking at. Like, hey, this is really cool. We'll have lunch. We'll go back to the office. But that 8 to 9 hours of like not focus on the day to day just really opens up the mind. Like the aperture just opens up and you start seeing these connections that you wouldn't have seen had you been heads down. Okay. But truth be told, it's for me. I need it. Okay. I benefit more than they do. They think, hey, he's paying for lunch today. It's awesome. I'm like, no, you don't get it. I get to go out and play and just think and just look at art and be inspired by what I'm seeing and start like thinking of some new seminars to create. This is good for us all. And so if you can't afford, great training, try to leverage the assets that you already have. For those in the DC metro area, we have tremendous cultural assets that are free. Okay. So let's leverage those things. I mean, art is supposed to move you in certain ways. That's why it's so expensive. So go see this amazing art we have at the National Galleries, at a few of the Smithsonian's. There are a few amazing private galleries that you will have to pay for, but just are amazing. And so that's one of the big things that I think will help us get to that place where you can start seeing these unique use cases.
Well, wait, look, you did this to yourself, and I got to slide one more in there. I'm with you. I'm 100% with you, and I would love to do that. But we're all remote. How do you create these connections, these relationships, and have those spaces when everyone is across the country in different time zones?
We have to start planning to come together at regular intervals because you cannot build organizational culture digitally. It's not possible. And so, and in my particular instance, we are in 3 different states, but my organization has made a decision that we're all coming back to the office in September. And I've let the team know that please make your plans to return, or let's have a different conversation. Because it's called work for a reason, right? And I think there are tremendous utilities to be gained here. And I think we do have to weigh the equities. People have different conditions. And frankly, I'm a results guy. I really don't care where you do it, even how you get to it, as long as we get this result we're trying to achieve. And then in a very competitive labor market, your ability to hire from anywhere in the country, it makes a huge difference on recruiting, especially in tight markets. And so I think we're in a really tough spot if you can't make an edict like we do. In the federal space, they absolutely can do edicts. They absolutely can. And perhaps they should to a certain degree to achieve some of these organizational culture metrics they're seeking to accomplish. So I'm giving you a wishy-washy answer on that one because it is tough. I know it's so contextual, but generally, I mean, I'll answer this way: do long-distance relationships work long-term? No.
Mm.
You got to be in relations to be connected physically. You have that proximity, and so we have to figure this one out. This was a tough one. I don't have a great answer. This is a tough one.
Well, what you did do is present arguments, pros and cons for both sides. And this is what these conversations are for. The listeners, I know you're out there right now, and you have to be able to pull on both sides of this conversation, say what works best for our organization. So thank you so much for providing this learning opportunity, Mr. Cordell Esquire. Uh, I want to open the floor to you. Is there any thoughts, any ideas, any last things you'd like to just share with our audience before we begin to wrap up?
Yeah, I'm launching a new series of content on belonging. Um, my theory of change on that is that diversity, equity, inclusion is a car on the road of discovery, and it's traversing the hills of our isms, be it racism, classism, whatever our isms are, but is going to some place, and that place is a land called belonging, where there's places for everyone. And in the land of belonging, there's a speakeasy called Thriving. But you got to use the keys in the glove box of that car called DE&I to access that speakeasy called Thriving. Doesn't mean you get in, but you'll have multiple shots at it. And so I'm building some content around that and launching that with a few organizations in the South later on this fall. I'm pretty excited about it. We're putting on our own little learning management system, teamed up with a team at Morehouse College. And these young men are helping me along, helping the old man get in the studio and record this stuff. But I'm having a lot of fun writing the material and working on the scripts. And so stay tuned for that, belongingandthriving.org.
You are amazing. And I am so glad that I belong to your relationship crew, your cohort of thinkers. I was trying to be cool. So everyone, this has been a phenomenal conversation. Thank you so much for joining us here today. And thank you everyone for listening. You know what's about to come right now. You know what I'm about to say. Don't look back, reach back. If you found anything of value in today's conversation, don't keep it to yourself. Reach out and bring back someone to the table and share this content with them. Don't say, "Hey, you should have been here." That's on you. Don't be that guy. Don't be that gal. I just want to say thank you for everyone who's been along with us in this awesome journey. And as always, stay strong, stay positive, and definitely stay moving. See ya.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening to The Executive Appeal with Alex Tremble. I invite you to follow The Executive Appeal wherever you listen to podcasts. Follow me, your host, Alex Tremble, across all socials or via email for exclusive webinars, courses, and in speaking engagements on continued topics of executive leadership. So until next time, stay strong, stay positive, and definitely stay moving.